Here's the truth for those who are tired of believing in things that insult their own intelligence. Our heroes are dead, and the same group of people that killed them writes all of our narratives and controls all of our mainstream media images. Because they write our narratives and controls our media images, they now dehumanize us in order to make others insensitive to our plight. They also vilify us to falsely validate their past and present mistreatments of us. It's a propaganda tactic called manufactured consent to mistreat. They also ghettoize our media images to negatively stare our culture while misleading us to believe we're negatively staring ourselves. This is possible because a group's identity is shaped by how they see themselves repeatedly depicted within the media. People's behaviors align with how they see themselves repeatedly depicted within the media. People often becomes those derogatory media depictions of themselves that they've accepted as being their true reality. Therefore, those who controls a people's media images controls their culture. Because the white society controls how black people are repeatedly depicted in the media, this fact allows white oppressive forces to negatively steer the African American culture. It's a true hidden social science known as negative media social engineering. It's the true reason why millions of African Americans now call themselves niggers, thugs, bitches and hoes, sag their pants, and glorifies pimps. This isn't a feeble attempt at scapegoating that wrongly blame white people to absolve ourselves of our own responsibilities and shortcomings, as so many have been conditioned to respond. It's the absolute truth. We African Americans are more susceptible to negative media social engineering because people that have been stripped of their true identity and culture are more susceptible to media social engineering. The white society also exploits their monopoly over our narratives and media images to demoralize and divide us. The white media's unrelenting negative depictions of black people that amplifies the negative to the point that it distorts our reality is much more than just biased media reporting. It is actually an insidious black racially demoralizing divide and conquer psychological warfare campaign. Demoralize, divide, and conquer is a method of maintaining control over a targeted population through constant and unrelenting demoralization in order to create self-hate and division between them. The white society keeps us believing the fraudulent worst possible narratives about ourselves to keep us demoralized, divided, and self-loathing. It also shifts black collective aggressions away from the white society and redirects it towards and against ourselves. Keeping us within this condition makes us much more easier to control and prevents our ability to unify ourselves against the white oppressive society. It's how white propaganda now secretly prevents massive unified black rebellion against the white society. The ultimate goal is to demoralize black people to such an extent that we begin to doubt our own ability to govern ourselves, and we believe that we therefore need white people to govern over our lives. Moreover, we believe that we're better off living under white dominance, and therefore we abandon all hopes of ever liberating ourselves. It also creates black self-hatred and disunity, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds us as a people, and we can then be ruled over forever. The white society's control over black people's narratives and media images have always represented a tyranny of the white society's power over black people. Black people are also within a trauma-bonded relationship with the white society. The term trauma bonded is usually associated with individual abusive relationships wherein which one person is manipulated and mentally abused for the benefit of another narcissistic person. More specifically, after repeatedly brutalizing the victim, the narcissistic abuser never acknowledges any of his wrongdoing. He instead minimizes the abuse and tells the victim that the abuse wasn't that bad at all and to just get over it. He then constantly inundates the victim with demoralizing and disapproving narratives about the victim. This is continued. This can until rather than resenting the abuser for the abuse, the victim instead focuses only on the demoralizing and disapproving narratives and tries to win the approval of the abuser. Trauma bonding provides the abuser with a more favorable outcome from their victims rather than having the victim hating and resenting them. Likewise, this same trauma bonding, abusive manipulating tactic is what the white society has done to black people. After brutalizing black people for many centuries, the white society never acknowledged any of the terrible wrongdoing they did to black people. They instead insist that abuse of black people wasn't that bad, and they tell black people just get over it. They even whitewashed their textbooks to claim that the white society's abusive mistreatment of black people actually improved the lives of black people. And in addition to these lies, they constantly inundate black people with black racially demoralizing and white disapproving propaganda. This is continued until rather than resenting the white society for abusing us, many black people instead focus only on the black racially demoralizing and white disapproving propaganda, and therefore tries to win the approval of the white society. Many black people will go out of their ways to try to show white people they were not all bad. This is the truth of our plight and condition. Today you've heard the truth. Black people are within a trauma-bonded, abusive relationship with a narcissistic white society. And just like within most abusive relationships, the white abusers have convinced many black victims to believe that the abuse we endure were our own fault. So instead of resenting them, we instead seek to win the white society's approval. It's a psychological mind hack. The minds of targeted populations are quite easy to manipulate if they're unaware of what's being done to them. Once minds have been confused, manipulation becomes simple. The mind will even ignore common sense and rationality falls away, even overlooking hypocrisy and deception. Now you know the truth of our plight and condition. The truth has finally come forth. But millions of black people have been conditioned to fear it and to hate those who speak it. These are those black people that have literally been conditioned to act as wardens of their own mental prison. Millions also refuse to accept the truth because of the inherent call for action that comes with accepting the truth. Many therefore cling to their biblical fairy tales and their silly slave syndrome myths that keeps our minds dumbfounded, dumbed down, and mentally enslaved to the benefit of the white society. Usually people have a right to believe whatever they choose to believe. But there's a profound exception to this rule when it comes to the oppressed. The oppressed must function based upon what's actually true in order to liberate themselves. Because if our understandings of our plight and condition are flawed, then all liberating remedies and solutions that stem from those misunderstandings and false beliefs will also be flawed. The white society don't want us to ever gain a true understanding of our plight and condition. They don't want us to know what they've done to us, and it continually does to us to facilitate the ongoing long-term oppression of us. This is why white oppressive forces have spread so much false information into the black community. It's to keep us confused, to keep our understandings flawed. They don't want us to ever gain a true understanding of our plight and condition. It's why whenever those of us know the truth and try to share it, Facebook blocks it, Twitter deletes it, Google hides it, YouTube bans it. The media censors it and government forbids it. Because they know that once we learn the truth of our plight and condition, that we will then be able to develop the proper counter strategies that are necessary in order to liberate ourselves. They don't want it to ever be known. It's also why they've always killed those of us who tell the truth. Nonetheless, Those who know the truth must teach. African proverb. We must teach the truth whether it fills the room or clears it out. We must teach the room regardless of who objects us doing so. Because we're called to free the mind of the sheep, not to concern ourselves with the evil goats. Brothers and sisters, I've shown you the truth that goes beyond biblical fairy tale and silly slave syndrome myth. The truth that your mind will have to suspend, go into a fantasy realm to understand it. It's basic. It's in your face. And it's the social sciences that are deployed for maintaining their dominance and to continue the oppression of black people. Learn the truth, spread the truth, teach the truth, and let's develop counter strategies to liberate ourselves. One love and peace.